Welcome to HumBot, your podcast where we discuss application of AI agents in business environments. You'll hear from professionals who are builders, buyers, users, and thought leaders in the Agentic AI space. Today's topic is orchestrating the AI agent Symphony. I hear you, it's a mouthful, so let me start with a question. Listeners and viewers, in your view, what is the single most important factor driving adoption of AI agents in businesses? If we are to believe the latest research, it is executive vision and executive sponsorship. It's not about products, it's not about technology, it's not about all the glitz that we hear around technology. So I am genuinely excited today for the two great guests we have at the pod, who themselves are executive leaders in Strategic Blue. And it is my great pleasure to invite Andy and James from Strategic Blue. Andy and James, thank you so much for joining us today.
My name's James Mitchell. I'm the CEO and founder of Strategic Blue. We're one of the original FinOps companies doing financial operations around cloud services, trying to remove some of the friction and distraction from people who are innovating with cloud, but want to make sure that they don't overspend budgets and other financial concerns.
Thank you, James. Andy?
Hi, I'm Andy Watson. I'm the Chief Product Officer, and I've been working with Strategic Blue for over 5 years now. And my role really is to try and match how best we can help our customers overcome the problems that they face in adopting cloud as a tool to achieving what they are trying to achieve as a company or organization going forward.
For later. So, James, if we could start with that, potentially take us back a year or two when you heard this term AI and Agentic AI for the first time. How did you synthesize that? What was the catalyst that led you to engender the change?
So we spend a lot of time in the AWS ecosystem and other cloud vendor ecosystems, and we're constantly being passed glasses of Kool-Aid to drink. And you drink more and more of this, and you go just like, is anyone really doing this? Well, I was fortunate enough to get invited to the AWS Executive Summit and had 4 days rubbing shoulders with CIOs, CTOs of some of the world's biggest companies in almost every industry imaginable. And I would literally ask them, is this just Kool-Aid or are you guys actually doing it? And they would tell me in detail about what they're actually doing. And oh my word, just like, if your organization, no matter what industry you're in, if you aren't doing this stuff now, there's someone else who is, and they're going to take your margin away from you. Every single industry.
Wow.
I would honestly struggle to think of a single industry where this isn't happening. And for the big companies, if they're not doing this, there will be a startup who absolutely will be, and they have no reputation to lose. And so I think the whole risk in terms of who are the earliest adopters and who are the fast followers. I don't necessarily want to be at the bleeding edge, but I would like to be in and around the cutting edge of this stuff because you're going to have to embrace it sooner or later, is my view. My personal view is that it would be better if AI was put back into Pandora's box, but I don't think that everyone is going to agree to do that, funnily enough. And so I think that everyone is going to have to adopt it sooner or later. And if you're going to adopt it at some point, why not do it now whilst it's still a commercial advantage? And I'll be surprised if there's that many CEOs out there that don't come to the same conclusion sooner or later.
Interesting. And I think you're right. Head starts to go a long way in this world because everyone's starting from scratch pretty much. No one can claim to know the recipe here. Just to follow up, how did you think of gaining consensus from other leaders in your organization, including the ones sat next to you?
We have some skeptics in our organization, and one of the things that is most interesting is those who are the most technically competent, certainly in the past, have had the least to benefit from AI. It's people like me that aren't. I'm no coder. I've never been formally trained how to be a developer or anything like that. The advantage that these tools give me in terms of being able to communicate my vision to colleagues and to experiment and innovate, even if the code is very messy behind the scenes, it's game changing. It really is, in terms of overcoming that communication barrier between how one person imagines something and trying to get a range of different people to see what you mean and be able to do that rapidly. But the more and more we start using these agents, the more we realize that with the right support around them and the right humans in the loop, you're going to end up with like a human AI joint org structure that is able to do so much more than the old way of doing things.
Mm-hmm. So Andy, if we could bring you in then. So obviously James talked about the catalyst, some approaches towards securing buy-in. How did you consume the narrative going outside and what James was discussing with you in terms of company direction?
I think I'm one of the skeptics. You always hear the Kool-Aid everywhere. Everything is the next big hype. There's always hype and excitement around stuff, and it very rarely lives up to those expectations, or certainly doesn't evolve into the direction you originally thought. So I always have an element of skepticism, but as you look at it, you can see the potential. And so you can see that even if we don't understand exactly where it's going to take us, it's going to take us somewhere very different to where we are now and very quickly. And I just don't think that anyone can afford to get left behind on this, because it's going to be a fundamental change to the way that we work and the way that products are built and the way that the market expects products to deliver and the way they engage with them. So I see it as being fundamentally important to me personally in my career development, but also into me as a product manager in what I build and how it's going to be consumed, and the pace at which it needs to be delivered. Everything is going up several notches, and you just will not keep up if you don't start reimagining the way that you're working.
The stuff that you can do today that you absolutely couldn't do even weeks ago, let alone a year ago, is just absolutely crazy. So even if what you want to do isn't possible now, the direction of travel is pretty clear. The capabilities aren't going to get worse than they are now.
Yeah.
So unless you want your staff to have to get up a learning curve unbelievably quickly, you've got to start experimenting now and just cope with the fact that there will be hallucinations, there will be things that go wrong. Just try to be reasonably sensible about what you try first and start off with something simple and straightforward and harmless and build from there. But you do need to take staff along on the journey with you and try not to get too far ahead of them. And that can be difficult because some people really are concerned about this. I think they're right to be concerned about this, but the reaction is not stick your head in the sand.
Yeah, I think I caught like two operative words. One was start off, because that's going to be key to experiment. But I also heard something which is kind of to say we shouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves from an organizational viewpoint. I think that's a very inclusive message for an organization, because the insecurities are real.
But even not getting so far ahead of yourself, because the landscape is changing so much that what you think might be 10 steps ahead, tomorrow it's going to be, those 10 steps are going to be in a slightly different direction because the landscape has changed. And so we're trying quite hard to have a view on the longer term, but be very, very consistent with where we are right now and what we need to achieve right now, so that we're delivering outcomes early. Rather than some theoretical gain that's even further in advance that is even harder to grasp hold of.
Yeah. I mean, our initial attempts at doing this didn't work out. We have had a number of dead ends that we've gone down, but the learnings from those have been really valuable, and you can see those in what we have now managed to make work. And what we did was we started off with one or two people experimenting. And then as we got confident that there was value in that experimentation, we added some more people who could cope with seeing a little bit of code on the screen and stuff like that. And then as we got more and more confidence, we added more people. And so the ones at the forefront are sharing learnings with the next cohort, and those ones share their learnings with the next cohort, so that the gap isn't too big between what someone is learning that's new to them. We're trying to manage that learning experience because it is just overwhelming. The amount of knowledge, acronyms, approaches that you need to learn, there is so much going on, and it's all changing so quickly. But I mean, I guess the one piece of advice I would share is whilst these AI agents, they are not people. Let's be abundantly clear.
Yes.
They're not people.
Yes.
However, it makes it a lot easier if you manage them as though they were a person and you think, have I actually provided decent instructions, the right context that they're operating in, provided the right guardrails, or have I done the equivalent of hiring someone who is fresh out of school, giving them no instructions and no context, giving them access to all of my secure environment, and then wondered why they've broken stuff.
Indeed.
Just thinking of that as the analogy I find very helpful, while still appreciating they're not human, so I get the fact that they're not.
Yes, I think you nailed it. And previous speakers who joined us have said this in different ways. And the one thing that I've heard consistently is the future looks as if execution is infinite, or execution capabilities are infinite with agents. But the vision, the constraints, the guardrails we add, or you would add as exec leaders into your organization, will be kind of the defining moments. Potentially for you, Andy, is from a product standpoint, where have the experiments happened? Have they happened on the core product portfolio, or what would you, or maybe areas that are adjacent to the core product?
So far, they've been happening in adjacent areas as we learn and develop, and we build our understanding. Our understanding of how to control it, how to constrain it, how to test it, how to ensure that it's still a quality product that we're putting out there. It's still our reputation at risk, and it's still guidance that we're providing our customers, and so we need it to be robust. So it started off very much adjacent, and where you were talking just then, we focused on problems, and I think that's where the product development, it has to really focus on the problems that we're solving. We can't solve those problems without understanding the challenges that our customers are seeing as they're adopting these tools, they're innovating within their own companies. How can we help them break down some of those financial barriers to the adoption of cloud and tools and costs if we don't understand and we don't live and breathe those? So we've started developing our own understanding for how we'll use it for our product, but also so that we can talk the same language as our customers when they come to us for advice. And hopefully those two will marry up into our core product, which we are working towards now at an accelerated rate, using AI to help us prototype more quickly, to make sure that link between the problem we're solving and the customer's experience is as seamless as possible. Because it's going to be that experience that differentiates now. And it's that you're only going to build that experience by understanding the problem. So you have to live and breathe it.
And that would imply a higher order of empathy for the customer roles that interact with your product, presumably.
Exactly that. And so you have that empathy by living it. And that's why we're trying to bring it into our organization to help us deliver our products, but also deliver what we do and how we work. And hopefully then we can speak much more credibly when we are framing what we build and having those conversations with our customers.
Nice. And James, we talked about so many things, right? Like the speed, the number of shifts, the changes. How do you put an organization at ease amidst all this?
I think the single biggest thing that I think has been helpful was, as CEO, who has shown too much enthusiasm for trying to use AI and AI agents, both as a tool and literally as a team of agents, is to admit all of the downsides of it, to point out the hallucinations that you get, the mistakes it makes, the enormous carbon footprint of it, at least the way that it works at the moment with the huge LLMs that are used for everything rather than small, more efficient LLMs. And even making the acknowledgement that this could easily be worse for society than not having it at all. And maybe it should be put back inside Pandora's box, because I know that an awful lot of colleagues think that is true.
That is true.
And I personally, my view is, I think that they're right. Given the judgment call, I would put it back in Pandora's box. But, saying, do you think that everyone in the world is going to put it back in Pandora's box? Nobody is saying that is even remotely likely to happen. Not a chance. And so given that is the case, we're going to have to respond to it. I mean, even if I just look at the phishing threats that I get on literally a daily basis, the quality of them has gone up so much. They are clearly AI generated. I now get telephone calls where it is an AI bot that knows about Strategic Blue, and it's a bot on the other end of it, but it's clearly an AI agent. And the only way to defend against that kind of thing is to have your own stuff. You just...
And I'm kind of hearing sort of interesting points here, but one is a position of a bit of vulnerability and also a position of setting a direction by trying out yourself and then talking to the team about it. The vulnerability on what could it all mean, and you trying yourselves to prove the point that it needs to be, everyone needs to be an owner going forward. It can't be delegated down.
Yes, but also making the point that we expect mistakes to be made. And if people get involved now and they make mistakes now,
that's fine.
Then that type of mistake is going to be fine. If they wait too long, the kind of mistakes that are okay now are going to be a lot less okay in the future. But right now, the support is there in order to learn this future way of working and doing business. And this is a huge opportunity because it's a tough marketplace out there. And at our company, there's an opportunity to be trained up and to learn and to build the skills of the future.
Exactly. So maybe talking of skills of future, Andy, the term AI agents is sometimes loosely termed with an option to have human expertise available, not as a human, but as an AI, but having sort of pockets of what you would traditionally call as human expertise. How do you see this? Like, is this how you see the product organization evolving? That there'll be agents with very specific orchestration mandates in future? Or do you see generalized agents that will be catch-all, like do everything through one agent?
I think there will be specific agents. Our experiments, we've started at the one agent. So using the case of using AI to help us code, we've started with one coding assistant to help us build our prototype, and that had some advantages. As you go through it, you start seeing some of the problems that you hear about hallucinations or breaking functionality that previously worked or lack of consistency in the way that it builds stuff. And so gradually we expanded the context and the rules and the way that we trained this new employee to work with us.
Yeah.
But we found that the larger that training became, the more opportunity there was for conflicts in its training or for it to forget bits of it because we've overloaded it or those sorts of problems. So then we've gradually broken that out into multiple agents with very specific functions, and some of those functions are to help build requirements. Some of them are to actually go and execute it. Some are to go and sanity check it. Some are to enforce policies. Some are to enforce standards and visual appearance. And so that way we start layering on the controls and the governance, and we keep individual agents very, very task focused and very context focused on a particular skill set, and we feed them blueprints that help them understand what is expected of them very clearly. And it's by playing them off against each other and getting them to compete and critique that we've managed to overcome some of the barriers that we found when we were originally doing it with one agent catch-all.
Nice.
But that's been a major part of our learning, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously keeping things simple is in general good.
Yeah.
However, for this, there is no one correct solution for this is the right way to write code, or this is the right way to auto-generate an email. There's a grey area in the middle. And in the same way as humans would go and consult different specialists about, is this okay from a security perspective? Is this okay from a branding perspective? Does this align with the corporate vision? It is generally helpful to go through this consultation process with other agents that are specialized, that are looking at things through a particular lens and getting them to find some happy medium, just like if it was a team of people. And I think it is most helpful to literally think of it as managing people rather than as using tools, Because if you're using a tool, you're generally supervising that tool. You're literally using the tool yourself. You'll get a pickup in productivity, but you're still providing an awful lot of the brains around it. And there's a limit to what you can do. If you can start managing an agent and give it some autonomy and give it access to data and give it access to tools and even allow it to manage other agents as well, the uplift in productivity from that and the benefit of having a team member managing a team of agents, the difference is just incredible from our early experiments.
Yeah,
it's almost like we've offloaded the mental pain of having to retain information and call it in and process it. It's like we've offloaded that to something that's better capable of managing that depth. And then we can query that. I mean, I know James will like to talk about his alter ego agent, but I think it's quite interesting because James has built an agent that is another him, where he's offloaded his information, his perception on the market, our customers, our environment, what we need to build, our mission and our vision.
Nice.
And that's an excellent sounding board because he's spoken to the agent to do that rather than taking up my time, as he's cleared his own thoughts and his own feelings about things and got the agent to play it back concisely and clearly. Then he can sanity check himself against what he said before. I can sanity check. Why is James asking me to do this? How does that fit in? I can talk to the agent as if it's another James, but not as intimidating as talking to James. And that goes down the organization as well. Anyone could have that. And I can, for example, guide my behavior by checking, is this consistent with the direction of travel? That agent is then available to our other agents to sanity check and see, where are the gaps in what we're doing compared to what we thought we would do or what we're aiming to do for our customer. And they become much better informed as to the context in which they're working. So we've almost got these alter egos as well as that we can use as a sounding board to help ourselves as well as other agents.
Very interesting. Alter egos that we can be direct with. The alter egos don't have the emotion that we would have as humans, so you can actually be a bit direct.
That's a prime example of it. We used this alter ego to help us refine our mission and vision recently. And one of the problems we have with any new idea is that somebody has to put pen to paper, draw a line in the sand as to a starting point. And that's quite a personal thing. And then it comes into open discussion, and you can feel threatened by the feedback, the critiques. When you allow the agent to create the line in the sand, everyone feels quite happy shooting it down. There's no personal feelings. You get to a more open outcome from the decision because you can offlay it to something that doesn't have feelings.
What we've been also hearing is you can offload a lot of the drudgery work to agents, which is probably standard, but this is a real step up, at least from my experiences and conversations, where you're offloading a little more strategic aspects of the organizational thinking to agents.
Or at least, I don't think we're offloading it to the agent. We're using it as a tool to facilitate an open discussion so that we can bring in the wider team in a safer environment to express opinions more clearly, because it doesn't feel like you are challenging one of the C-suite or one of the board or anything like that. You are having an open conversation with a machine, without feelings, and that machine has been given all the context of our working world and what we are trying to achieve, and so it's providing valuable feedback to us, and that's been one of the ways that we've had some success, and we certainly haven't overcome any cultural, all the cultural challenges of AI. But the small wins and having outcomes that people can see and believe in is quite useful. And that was just one prime example of how we used it to facilitate a better result from the people in the room.
I mean, just playing with these things is hugely informative. And the agent that he's referring to is called Cleo, short for Cleopatra, who's my highly experienced multi-exit CEO agent. Stuff that we're able to use her for now was never intended when we built her. Just like once you start down this journey, it basically allows you to think of things like, I wonder whether that would work. And what is fascinating is that a lot of the time it does. Like an awful lot of the time it does. And so literally just asking it, would you be able to do this? And sometimes it will come back with the obvious answer like, no, I can't. But sometimes you want to question that and go a bit like, well, why can't you do it like this? And it will go like, oh, and it helps it jump between an obvious way of doing it and a slightly less obvious way of doing that a human might think of. If you help it through the problem solving, it's amazing what you can empower it with. And then once you've joined up several pieces, they're actually remarkably good at doing the reasoning side of things. I mean, I realize that they're just doing like the pattern matching stuff behind the scenes, but an awful lot of it looks like reasoning.
Interesting.
But it certainly brings it enough to the fore that you can apply the reasoning on top as well and build on top of it. And what's really interesting is that when we first started on the journey with you, we would never have said that this was a likely outcome, that we would create a Cleopatra that we would use to facilitate such a thing. We never envisaged that at all. And that just emerged as possible out of something that was completely unrelated to do with increasing the consistency of coding to support a prototype to help us innovate for our customers. And as we expanded the agents there, we expanded our thinking and we found other ways of using that information. And that's what makes it quite exciting, because we started off with just choosing things that we thought had a value in the short term that then expand out, and we can see value beyond that as well. Yeah,
I think there are two points that are coming out from this exchange that you've just had. One is, it feels like both of you have found yourself richer for new perspectives just by engaging with an agent, which is an alter ego. And this is richer in like more perspectives, brainstorming, but without the paper cuts that come when there's a human-to-human interaction for all the egos. So I think that's phenomenal. If I just take a lesson. The second thing you're saying is starting is so critical that you just don't know where it'll end. But had you procrastinated, or had you imagined that there is no potential in all this, it's all another snake oil, as we all believe it to be, or a lot of folks believe it to be, then you're probably not even where you are today. So kudos to both of you. I think we'll go into the organizational side now a bit, but just on a tangent, are there any interesting customer anecdotes you would want to share from this kind of conversations that you're having with your end customers? Anything that jumps to mind that you probably may not have had you not introduced the AI agent topic?
I think the biggest thing is the concern around vendor lock-in and costs associated with use of AI. So obviously, given the nature of what we do, where we're helping customers think about their cloud finances, this kind of thing comes up a lot.
Yeah.
But everyone is rolling out access to AI all over the place, and at the moment, the model is for agents, it's like $20 per user per month, all you can eat. But you follow certain people on LinkedIn, and you can see that the stuff that they're doing, that is going to break that model, and you're going to have to revert to usage-based modeling. So at the moment, the major cloud vendors and the likes of Anthropic are paying for people to experiment using them. At some point, that will revert to usage-based pricing, and I, for one, would like my company using this stuff efficiently before that happens, which is one good reason why we're prioritizing doing this above all else at the moment, because at the moment it's effectively free. And we don't think that that's going to last for very much longer, to be honest. And then there's there's likes of using, say, Amazon Bedrock directly, for example, where you do already get charged for the usage, and all of the time you're not using very much, then you can't even see the cost. It's so small. But equally, you can understand that if you wrote something to run a ridiculous number of tests, then it could end up being very, very expensive very quickly. But at least if that is happening whilst you're learning and testing, you can then work out how you might go about working out the unit economics and forecasting that going forward. So there's a lot of nervousness about the return on investment for these things, both in terms of can you actually get to the point where it works and there is a return, and then what investment do you need to make in order to actually make that happen?
Interesting. Yeah, it feels like there are hooks thrown at all of us, right? So we get used to it, and then, but it's on us to be ready for the world after those hooks mature.
Yes, exactly.
Financial operations is kind of one of the biggest areas of focus, that should be the area of focus for leaders in the world ahead, because your P&L can suddenly swing if you're not being careful.
Yeah, what we found reassuring is, from our perspective as a business, is if you ask a straightforward LLM a straightforward question about cloud costs, it gets certain simple stuff right, convincingly right, but then you get hallucinations left, right, and center that are not necessarily that obvious. And so, at least from our perspective, it's clear that really good, careful prompting is important.
Yes,
and the devil is in the detail. So, one of the biggest pieces of advice for using any of these tools is be very careful about just accepting the answer from the LLM if you're not qualified to know whether the answer is nonsense or not. So, for example, I keep on pointing out to our very, very capable dev team, the reason why what I've been involved in building might not be up to scratch is I'm absolutely not qualified to know good code from bad code. Yeah. It's hardly surprising that there's issues with it. The same is true with marketing content. Is this suitable to be put on LinkedIn?
Yes.
If you're not a marketing expert, and that's where the human in the loop and bringing the subject matter experts and having them lead a team of agents as well as people, that's where it's critical. The idea that you can have one superhuman CEO that is going to supervise a fleet of agents and they're not going to make any really stupid mistakes that are going to blow up the company. I'm sure someone will do it and someone will manage it. It will just blow up at some point. You do need those subject matter experts who know what good looks like.
Yeah.
And understanding what good looks like is the core skill. And that, what we talked about, offloading the retention and the execution and the drudgery, is what will enable them to spend more time applying that and the creative thought and the creative and the critical thinking on the output, rather than spending all the time creating the output in the first place. Because it's going to become a much more competitive, it already is a very competitive place to make yourself heard. And so finding the ways to do that and being precise in the way that you target that is going to be where the real skill is when you're thinking about marketing content, but it could go to any other area where you create content.
I mean, the humans bring the subject matter expertise, the common sense applied to that specific subject area, and the imagination around that area. Now, you might say that only applies to those later in their career who have had the time to build up that subject matter expertise. But for those who are young, just coming out of university, for example, the AI is an unbelievable way of getting up the learning curve really quickly. If you can get put in a position where you're upwardly managing an agent that's like a chief marketing officer or something, just ask it questions. It will have an insatiable desire to educate you about what being a chief marketing officer is like. That allows you to get up the learning curve in terms of how everyone does everything today. And then you can be the subject matter expert that can use your common sense and your imagination to go, but what's next? How are we going to be doing this tomorrow? But with that as context. And that's so much more fun than just turning the handle on the same thing as though you're an automaton.
Exactly, right? I mean, the roles as they stand today, probably a lot, can't say large, but a percentage of the roles are just turning the wheel in the same way over and over. So clearly, you've just articulated something in it for humans to do, like subject matter expertise, having a crystal clear understanding of what good should be or should look like, and then constantly evolving yourselves, which is a lot of fun. You can evolve yourself as you learn more, which is I heard. So I think if I were to summarize what I gathered from the chat so far is I can see you've had mechanisms between yourselves. You may not call it mechanisms, but the use of Cleo, etc., for greater alignment between the two of you, which is fantastic. I'm sure not everyone's 100% aligned, but I think you've done a great job as execs aligning, because that's so key for this alignment to go down the organization. If execs aren't aligned, the organization will see through it. Everyone's smart. So that's one. So maybe let's move to the organizational side of driving the culture. So now you're in a space where you both have reasonable levels of alignment and clarity on where you want to take the direction. How do you see the organization reciprocating? And how have you maintained, or are you kind of kickstart a new culture or reinforce a culture? How do you see it?
We've always had a very strong learning culture within the company. That's the key underpinning part of it, actually. I think that's why people work for us, is because it's a place to learn. And we've used AI as an opportunity to continue that learning in a way that we believe is vital for future. Whether you work for Strategic Blue or not, it's vital that you have these skills and you're able to do that. So maybe change is uncomfortable, but irrelevance is probably a bit worse. And so we've tried to encourage that learning opportunity, and we've tried to do that in relation to success and small wins, building momentum from wins that we've been able to use AI as a tool to support us in obtaining those wins. It's not an overnight thing. It's not something that we have nailed and succeeded at. It's an ongoing journey and will continue for quite some time. But you see gradual adoption of the innovation environment that we've built and the tools and that we've put in front of people, and you see people struggling at first with it and adapting to the way of working, but then seeing the potential and then seeing some results and then getting hooked and addicted, because it does become addictive what you're able to do and what you're able to explore. And you can test stuff yourself without exposing any vulnerabilities, because you can do it. And if it goes wrong, you've just done it wrong in front of yourself and a bot. And you've learned something, and you go and do something that's better, and you present the better, and you look like you really know what you're doing. And no one's seen the mistakes you made on the way.
Interesting.
I think from an organizational perspective, it's fascinating. I mean, over 15 years, we've built up a fair amount of complexity that we've taken over from our customers, and keeping on top of that is really what we do and excel at. And so we have ISO 9001 for quality assurance. We have a business management system with policies and procedures and work instructions, all of which is obviously designed for humans, and it's all kind of written out. What has been fascinating is that as we've started building out these agents and realizing that they need context, they need guardrails, they need policies and procedures to comply with, you've ended up duplicating stuff. And so something that we're planning to do is to basically harmonize those together and have almost like a single organizational structure in terms of roles with people and AI intermingled, all subject to a joined up policies and procedures, basically business management system that is readable to humans, readable to the AI as well, so that everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet in terms of this is how we do stuff in order to align with our mission and vision. Here is our OKRs, here are our multi-year milestones, and have all of that hang together and become coherent and organize around that. And what we particularly love about that is the AI is very enthusiastic, very, very productive, available at all times and quite happy to be so, has willingly signed itself out of the working time directive. And that allows the rest of us to get back some of our work-life balance.
Yeah.
And you can actually build a company where people want to work and be doing pleasurable work and be able to progress through managing more productivity, not just by themselves working harder or by using tools more intelligently or by having to manage more people. You can manage more people and or more agents, all using more sophisticated tools. And that is quite democratizing for different types of people that can excel in different ways in those management roles.
Indeed. I mean, so I kind of understood the role of reinforcing the learning culture that you mentioned, Andy, and James, you talked about singing from the same hymn sheet. So the role of standards probably is becoming more critical. Are there any struggles that your teams have reported in this change?
I think probably one of the struggles that we've had is striking the right balance between developing the use of AI as a tool to support us in what we do, and actually doing what we do and moving forward what we do. It is a different way of working, and there is quite a lot to do in terms of the development of the agents, how best to operate and control them, and to check what they are doing. That's quite a large task in itself, orchestrating that, to go back to your title. And that is time that seems to be spent not spending on fixing the problems that you're there to help your customers achieve. And so striking that balance is tough, and we definitely don't always get that right. But the better we're becoming at the orchestration, the better equipped we are to do the problem solving and the delivery. And it's as we're sort of coming across that point now where we're starting to get the return on the investment in the orchestration that you start seeing the benefit there. And that's where it's becoming easier for people to see the benefit of doing this and to invest more time in supporting it and bringing it through.
It's basically a range of building blocks that you need, where you need more than one building block in order to get a tangible outcome. And if you try to go directly for the tangible outcome, you'll just find it won't work that well. So as you're getting going, you want to choose the thing that will, convince line management and others that this is a worthwhile thing to be spending any time on at all, and then work out how you can build those building blocks one after another. And every time you add a building block, it opens up more capabilities exponentially, and don't go for the most complicated thing straight away. It sounds like a really boring thing to do, but most companies will have some variation on a business management system. Starting with that, I think, is an excellent way of going about doing it.
This is a key takeaway. For leaders who are battling this organizational adoption problem, I think the way you've articulated your side of the vantage points around how you're driving change, addressing challenges, but then also sort of thinking of mental models that it's so I heard from you, Andy, that focusing on orchestration before going and solving the pinpoint problems is a great way, because even in your own mind you connect and then you're able to communicate that better to teams potentially. And James, you talked about the role of building blocks, and you're right. Every business, the word is business. So the business understanding, the depth, and the business policies and guardrails are the strength. Now you just need to overlay all of those into the new agentic AI wave in a careful, orchestrated way. So I think it's great takeaways for viewers and listeners. So maybe if you are to now look ahead into your organization, not long, but just probably 6 months out, are you seeing the need to define new ways of measuring performance of your organization, potentially yourselves?
I think every job description is in the middle of being rewritten to presume that everyone is a manager. And they might be an existing manager of people, but they ought to be now managing agents and or people. And that dramatically changes the way that you manage people, the way that you incentivize people, the KPIs that you put around them, the way that it can all be reported, because all of a sudden if every human has got an AI sidekick that has been trained in their discipline that they can play off against, you can make them do all of the reporting. And so all of the balanced scorecard, all of the OKR updates, like all of the tedium of doing what the CEO and the C-suite have asked you to do, all of that can be, you just tell the AI once that this needs to be done once a month, and you can just get it to do it. And you can focus on doing your job and doing the fun bits. I think everything is about to change, with some things being for the better.
I think that's true, but ultimately our company measures the things that are important to our shareholders, to us still remain the same. We still need to deliver those outcomes to those people. They are the same, and we will just be able to. Our intent is that we will be able to deliver more with the same team and with greater returns. So there will be the same measures, but higher expectations on what those measures will be.
Okay.
I'd say that there's a single exception to that. I think that shareholders are also looking at the market and the rise of AI, and in some cases are drinking maybe a little bit too much of the Kool-Aid, but I'm not sure that they're necessarily wrong, that the defensive moat of software is going to evaporate. You can absolutely describe someone else's software with a very well-documented API and say, build me a version of that. And if you're really good at this agentic AI coding stuff, you can have a workable solution up almost overnight. And that will apply for your software as well. And so it's going to be about data and contracts and trust and reliability and service delivery. Those are going to be the measures of stickiness going forward, together with your ability to innovate. And I know that my board have been quite insistent that we make sure that we work out how to innovate on a long-term basis and be able to not just keep up, but do it faster than others, rather than just try to incrementally do what we're doing today the same way, but a little bit better, because we will just get overtaken unless we learn how to do this. And I think the same is true for almost every company.
Whether we get overtaken by competitors or anybody else or our customers doing it, certainly the needs of our customers are going to change rapidly as well. They evolve over time anyway. If they're using these tools, their rate of change is going to be greater, so their rate of requirements is going to be changed. So in order for us to stay relevant to them, we need to be able to move with them as well and move at the pace they're moving at. So that's another reason why we have to be well equipped to stay close.
And our reason for being is to be freeing up our customers to do this technological innovation. We're absolutely not supposed to be slowing them down. Yeah. And so we better make sure that we can keep up with them on the FinOps side.
Indeed. I mean, it's fascinating. And you just highlighted a very constructive role of a board in one of these anecdotes you shared, because that's something I hear a very mixed opinion across the spectrum. Some boards just want you to get on with it without being clear. So looks like you're in a more favorable position. I think summarizing this entire conversation so far, if I can just throw some terms out. So firstly, I see the two of you as visionary, like you're kind of painting yourself a few years down the road and then bringing back yourself to today and then helping the organization go through. I heard a lot around the energy and exuberance that you both bring, but then it's also coupled with pragmatism and skepticism, which I think is a great balance to this. Probably the art here is not to get carried away onto the either extremes, right? Stay on course. And I think these traits that I just heard and assimilated will probably help Strategic Blue.
So we're using flawed tools. Mm-hmm. You need to just acknowledge that they're flawed.
Yeah.
And focus on the benefits of them and put the systems and processes around them. That means it doesn't matter if they make a mistake. I mean, if you have a coding agent that makes a mistake 10% of the time, and if you put a testing agent deliberately looking for holes in it that makes mistakes 10% of the time, then 10% of 10% is 1%. You've now got a system that only makes a mistake 1% of the time.
Yeah.
If you want to, you can put another wrapper around that and you can validate that the tester is not making a mistake, and you're down to 0.1% of the time, which is a heck of a lot better than 10%. Now you're arguably doing maybe as much as 3 times the carbon footprint for that same outcome.
I think that's quite interesting, because you started off making a point. I was going to make a slightly different one, and then they're quite related, because you've talked about improving the output of the agents by giving them diverse roles and diverse contexts.
Yeah.
And the point I was going to put in response to yours was that James and I, even just ourselves, are quite different people with very different perspectives, and that's where some of the balance comes from, because we're prepared to challenge each other and bring those different perspectives, and that rounds it off. we're lucky enough to be surrounded by a company of people with a whole bunch of other diverse perspectives as well. And that's what creates that balance between vision and pragmatism and skepticism and all of those sorts of things combined. And that's where humans in the loop will be a really important thing to this, because I think they are best at bringing those different perspectives. And then if you can use an AI bot to help you bring all of those together and create alignment, then happy days.
Yeah. For us, it's all about the attitude. If you've got a learning attitude, then we're willing to either teach ourselves or to make sure that the learning is available to people. What matters is having the attitude and be clearly trying.
We sit there saying to our children all the time to be brave enough to ask questions and to make mistakes. And yet that is probably the hardest thing you do in your day job. And yet we say it to our kids all the time. And I think that this environment has given us the opportunity to experiment and to make mistakes and to explore without having some of the fear factor that was there before. And that for me is what's made my job more interesting over the last 6 months. That's been the key for me over the last 6 months, is that I can play and learn and experiment.
Yeah, I mean, what an opportunity. The change that you're engendering is an opportunity for you to make mistakes as well. I mean, that's phenomenal. So let's maybe now, moving towards the end, just the last question. I mean, if we are to look out 3 to 5 years, and I've been told 3 to 5 years is a long time now, yeah. So let's not even go that far. But maybe if Andy could start with you, looking ahead, besides Cleo doing your performance appraisal, what else are you?
That's next week.
What else would you? What else do you think will happen with yourselves, with the company, and just in general?
The true answer is I don't know. 3 to 5 years is a long time. Mm-hmm. The pace at which things are moving at the moment does make it very hard to predict what we're going to be doing very much further in the future. And so all I'm concentrating on is trying to hedge bets, to do things that I think will have a positive outcome, even if I can't exactly predict where that outcome is going to lie. My hope for where we are as a company is that we have managed to offload that burden of retention and execution, so that we are able to explore and be more creative in the way that we solve solutions and not be constrained by some of the things that we have done in the past. It's quite easy to have ideas. It's less easy to execute them. Now, if you're in an environment where you can execute more quickly and explore those executions and refine them and improve them, then suddenly the creative side of your role will change, and then that, I think, will open up doors that you didn't know existed. And that's what's exciting for me, is that I don't know what it's going to be like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's such a responsible way of articulating the future for your team. And I think you're also giving cues to your team on what could they pick up in future, right? And stay relevant. So that's great.
As a product person, for me, it's important to stay close to customers, and if I can be spending more of my time there with the confidence that I'll be able to deliver something to help them, that's where I'll find the fun of it, and that's where I'd like my team specifically to be spending their time.
Nice. James?
I think it's a rare CEO who, with hand on heart, can honestly predict where their company is going to be in 3 to 5 years as things stand at the moment. You need to be doing scenario planning for the upside, scenario planning for the downside. Existential threats are left, right, and center for absolutely everyone. I honestly don't care who they are. It's just they're everywhere. You really can't plan even more than a year out, to be perfectly honest. So the only way to deal with that is to do scenario planning, to think about what could go wrong, what could go well, and invest in flexibility. And AI is nothing if not flexible. And the combination of a bunch of agents, whatever they're built upon, and cloud, AWS, Google, just like the combination of those gives you the flexibility to scale up, to scale down, to completely change what you're doing. You've got to be investing in all of the general use cases, because you've got no idea what your business is going to be doing in 5 years' time. It could be something completely different.
True. And I think one thing that I probably heard from you is like AI or humans and AI or AI agents coexisting. And that's the direction you see even for Strategic Blue going forward. How do you see that aspect of it? Is it most employees will be managers of agents alongside doing what they do well?
I mean, I put in the C-suite channel this week that I'm 80% there to basically saying that pretty much every staff member needs access to this platform now with the ability to create agents and to use agents. I'm struggling to think of any role where it wouldn't be beneficial.
Interesting.
And so we're already at that point. Now, do they all need to be running Claude Sonnet 4 under the hood? Massive LLM with a huge carbon footprint? No. So in 5 years' time, I would like to think that we've got much more energy-efficient LLMs being used in the right places, with the big energy-hungry ones only being used where it honestly warrants it.
Yeah. I think, I mean, we only took like 59 minutes to come to specific LLM model conversations. No, but I think to your point, that's what leadership is about. I mean, it's about engendering the change, not getting fascinated or tied to certain technology primitives that's being out there. 3-letter acronyms. So I think it's great, and I think Strategic Blue will have a great roadmap ahead, given that I see two aligned leaders talking to us today. And I think some of the mental models that you shared today were just fascinating, and ones we haven't heard or come across in this pod. So thank you for sharing that with our viewers and listeners. And potentially that concludes the line of questioning from me. Are there any famous last sort of advice that you'd like to share with viewers, or any call to action?
I think it's exactly what you said earlier. Get started. Try something. Look for problems, and just try, and you'll be surprised where you go.
Cool.
I would say the easiest way to start the journey is kind of like similar way to where we started. Go down to a cloud vendor event. The AWS ones are very, very good. I mean, like the Kool-Aid is quite fizzy, but they're very, very good. And, that was where we met you for the first time.
Yes.
And, we had some thought-provoking conversations, and we worked with you for a while, and like we learned an awful lot from that. And, starting off at those events is a perfectly good way to at least learn what others are doing. Even if you decide to go down a different path, you at least need to not be sticking your head in the sand.
Exactly. Yeah, and talking of learning, I think I learned a lot today in this hour's conversation, because even in my mind, I've been thinking where does HumBot go in the future, and what is the role that I play, and my co-founder and the early leaders we'll hire play. So thank you again for demystifying a few more things for me personally. And that's probably it for today. Thank you both for a great conversation. It was great having you in the podcast.
Great. Thanks very much.
Yeah, good to see you.